Welcome to the We Watch This Movie podcast, where we sit down and not dissect movies. No, Dan, this is our first ever Minisode. Welcome, faithful listeners. We wanted to give you more content, the very best of what we have to offer in short form. In fact, you might say that this show, we sit down for a quick cup of coffee. Now, the movies we're going to be discussing on this Minisode series, we're not disqualifying them from future in-depth conversations. However, it's another platform for us to give you some of our thoughts, interesting conversation, and just some quick reactions to what's hot at the moment, and maybe some other movies that, like I said, we'll tackle down the line. Dan, with that, over your cup of coffee, how are you doing this week?
That's a warm cup of tea. For me, I'm having tea today, and today we are taking a look at Dave Franco's directorial debut, The Rental. Ooh, a little bit creepy, a little bit scary. It's a horror/thriller. Tell us a little bit about it, Jackson.
Dan, Dave Franco produced, directed, wrote this, I guess, horror thriller feature. Bit of a genre-bending movie. It's certainly in our wheelhouse here to tackle a subversive and different kind of movie. The Rental. Here's a quick plot synopsis for some of those who haven't seen it just yet. Two couples on an oceanside getaway grow suspicious that the host of their seemingly perfect rental house may be spying on them. Before long, what should have been a celebratory weekend trip turns into something far more sinister, as well-kept secrets are exposed and the four old friends come to see each other in a whole new light. Dan Allen Movies of the We Watch This Movie podcast, available on Instagram, Facebook, Letterboxd, Twitter, TikTok for our brand new listeners. What were your initial thoughts after this 95, 100-minute runtime? Run out. And by the way, listeners, this is the second ever film to not only top the box office charts, but the video on demand chance in the same week as well. This has seen wide release in drive-in movie theaters around the world, and particularly in North America. We're not sure about the production budget, but it seems to be doing quite tidy there and making some money. So, mate, what were your thoughts?
With that, well, obviously, our minisodes are going to be spoiler-free, guys, just so you know. So you don't have to have seen this film to hear our thoughts. The Rental, Dave Franco. The concept here that I can't spoil, because it's the reveal is close to the end, is awesome. Okay? It's a really cool concept that I haven't seen explored before. And you know what I'm talking about, don't you, Jackson?
Without going, like you said, too much in depth on say the ending or what happens about halfway through the second act, what about it was awesome?
I just haven't seen it explored before, and it's a creepy concept at the core. It could make for a really creepy, interesting thriller. Unfortunately,
what do you mean, like the Airbnb from hell? Or?
Correct. Unfortunately,
Okay.
because it's in modern times. We haven't seen Airbnbs explored in this way before. So, unfortunately, it doesn't quite hit the mark. There seems to be 3 different films going on in this film. You've got I'll pay that. You've got a horror, you've got a love triangle, and then you've got a thriller. All 3 mixed up. I really, really enjoyed elements of this film, especially probably in the midway points. But then it just started to fall apart, and then you realize what this actually is, and it lost me by that final 20, 30 minutes. It became something else that I don't want to say I didn't sign up for, but I wanted something else from this story. This could have been like The Gift or one of those films I really love. Joel Edgerton always gets a shout out here. One of those creepy thrillers that gets you hooked in, but it lost its way a bit towards the end.
Yeah, I'll agree with you there, Dan. Look, if it wasn't for COVID-19 coming in, I'm sure when this movie was in production, that was just a glint in the milkman's eye. If it wasn't for COVID-19, this movie's definitely going to turn you off hosting or maybe jumping into an Airbnb anytime soon, particularly one out in the middle of nowhere. And given the ending, I'm sure there'd be a few people out there, some real horror aficionados, who are keen to see The Rental parts 2 through 6, I reckon. I'm going to agree. I felt like the premise and its build up as a melodrama and exploring the relationships and some of the interplay between the four main characters was probably the most interesting aspect, at least to me. I preferred that to going down the horror route, and I found that was least interesting without going too far into spoilers, and how it did play out heading into that third act. Sure, it was unique, but I kind of prefer what was being set up. I believe that this movie for Dave Franco is a success for a first-time director.
Yeah.
He wrote the script along with Joe Swanberg, who you might see mentioned online as like a micro-budget maestro, and has worked with other leading men and comedic actors on making some other subversive movies. We can point to another film starring Jake Johnson from New Girl called Win It All, which Joe Swanberg also had a hand in. And it feels like here, both him and Dave Franco kind of put together a story and a script and something they could tackle together, knowing it wasn't going to be too overly ambitious and was going to be quite closely knit. And Dave Franco's wife, Alison Brie, who doesn't love her, she shows up in the cast to kind of anchor the ship as well. I'm excited to see what Dave Franco does next. Would I be going back and rewatching this? No. Could I recommend this? If you're a fan of horror, you're a fan of tense scenes and dreadful kind of grim sequences, you will get a kick out of it. And if you don't mind a downer ending without spoiling too much, you probably will enjoy this. One subtle touch, I did enjoy that when we get some of that video camera footage at the very end, we had the credits playing over it. I thought that was nice. Very nice. Yeah. Maybe a bit too cute for this kind of film, but hey, why not? It's a movie. It's meant to be an enjoyable and entertaining experience. But
that's why I'm conflicted.
You could do a heck of a lot worse.
That's why I'm conflicted with this, because I had a lot of fun. Like, it was a short runtime, short enough, kept you engaged. Yeah. So, you know, I probably would recommend it as well, although it was disappointing in a lot of factors. What did you think of the turn about, 70 minutes in? 2/3
of the way through into that third act.
Do you see it coming?
Look, when we... Again, I don't want to go too deep into spoilers. I'm sure it's probably out there somewhere in a trailer. When we saw Toby Huss's character depart, and we kind of learned that, okay, it's not going to be one of those stories where the Airbnb owner really may be preying on these people, and it kind of gets flipped on its head. For a moment, it was a little bit exciting. But then how it all wrapped up, it kind of took me out of it. I feel like kind of woven into the DNA of the film were some interesting ideas and some nice cinematography and some cool stuff by Dave Franco, but it wasn't enough great ideas to really elevate this picture. I want to say that opening shot of the film, where we get two of our leading people, Dan Stevens as Charlie and Sheila Vand as Mina, when we have them hugging in front of that computer and we believe they're a couple, only to then realize that they're work partners, I thought that was a fantastic setup, and I was really excited to see where it was going to go from there. We then later learned that Jeremy Allen White as Josh, and of course Alison Brie as Michelle, they're going to be in on the weekend. They've each got a partner in Mina and in Charlie respectively. And we kind of knew from there that things were going to play out. While maybe predictable, it was still enjoyable. Did you echo that kind of sentiment?
It's predictable,
as well, Dan?
But it's enjoyable. But the thing is, would you go... I just don't know how realistic the whole thing is, to be fair. Like, would you go...
What do you mean?
Would you go on a week trip with your wife and your mistress... and your brother. It's a very convoluted story, and it's very...
it was for the weekend. And
I just think it's a bit...
And it's one of those workplace relationships where these kind of flutters can happen.
But then the brother's involved as well. Like, come on.
Okay,
one step
right.
too far.
It is a bit... It is a bit too convenient. It's a movie after all. There has to be some kind of suspension of disbelief.
I'm a Nolan fan.
I feel like
I know all about that.
Sure you do. I hope someone isn't listening here. It is realistic that kind of thing could happen. From what we were led to believe, that Mina maybe hadn't been working at Charlie's firm all that long, and she was obviously an executive there, and so was he. Maybe she was kind of attracted to the power that he kind of put out. Yes, it was predictable that we could see there was going to be some kind of relationship between the two, but then we mix in an aspect like the drugs that they're on. We get that bit of humor where they're dancing to Flume. So again, I still didn't mind that. The turn for me, pardon the pun, turned me off.
Yeah. I just wasn't expecting that side of the horror to come out. It didn't feel like they were building to that. I don't know. It's a tough one. Like you said, there was some great ideas there that could have maybe in more capable hands. I don't want to sound too harsh. Like, this is his first writing and directing credits, I believe. So, but in more capable hands, you could have had a real good thriller on your hands here, and maybe some more twists and turns. You know, maybe we needed that big twist at the end that we didn't get. Maybe there's something.
We got that though, didn't we?
I don't believe we did. We did. That.
I don't know about more capable hands. I think it really does come down to the script that prevented it from reaching that great or even very good territory.
That's what I'm trying to say. Sorry, when it comes to the script, not the directing. I mean, the cinematography was great. The acting from everyone, Dan Stevens, Alison Brie, everyone there, like, very believable.
I'm glad you said it. Yeah.
So I'm interested to hear what audiences thought. What was the critical reception for this one so far?
Jackson's ratings.
IMDb, Rotten Tomatoes, audience score, and Letterboxd.
Dan, I'm glad you asked. It's been mixed, to say the least, so here goes. IMDb has this one coming in at 5.8 out of 10 from over 7,100 user ratings, so quite low from the internet movie community. Rotten Tomatoes, the tomato meter, has this at 74% of critics giving it a fresh rating, which is quite high. Of that, their average score is 6.38 out of 10. So that, that's good. Is it very good? Maybe not necessarily, but it's up there. I was surprised to see the audience score wasn't the same. It was more in line with what was on IMDb. So the audience score on Rotten Tomato, 45% of audiences gave it a rating of 3.5 out of 5, or 2.91 out of 5 was the average. Metacritic coming in at 63 out of 100 from 28 critic reviews. And finally, we don't love to mention them enough here at the podcast, Letterboxd had this one coming in at 2.8 out of 5 from 12,000 users and over 1.8 thousand likes.
Yeah.
So it's been mixed.
I could see that from,
Again, during the pandemic here, if you want something different in terms of horror, and having a name like Alison Brie and of course Dave Franco attached is probably going to attract some eyes. If you're a hardcore horror fan, you're going to get something out of it. I enjoyed, Dan, before asking for your rating, how the music was swelling in some of the sequences and just how tense it was, and kind of cutting between when we had one of these, I don't know if you'd call it like a raid on the Airbnb or maybe some kind of attack. We had some stalking going on, and then we had that juxtaposed with what the Weekenders were doing, trying to bury something. I don't want to go too far into it. I thought that worked quite well.
I just think it had third act problems. It's as simple as that. So I was heading first two acts, I had this at a 7, and by the end I had to bump it down to a 6. So my final rating is a 6 out of 10 for The Rental. Great start for Dave Franco. I'm interested to see what he does next. I don't want to do a Rental 2. I want him to move on to something else. Maybe stay in the thriller genre, because I think he has some great ideas there. Maybe he needs a script from someone else, though, to really polish things off. He can come in direct, maybe even star, I don't know. Get his brother involved. James Franco's always been a good in thrillers. So, I'm interested to see what he does next. But for me, it's a 6 out of 10. Slightly disappointing. But then again, I would recommend this to a lot of people just on a Friday night to sit down and enjoy yourself, because there's a lot here to like.
For sure. Maybe just be careful watching this with your own partner, as you don't want to bring up any crazy ex stories. You might not want to be reminded of how you both met together on MDMA on a crazy night out. For me, Dan, my final rating is coming in at 5 out of 10 dog dancing routines to Flume. You said it best. First two acts built quite well. Kind of falls apart in the third. Your mileage is going to vary there. If you're a real hardcore horror fanatic, you probably will get a kick out of that third act. You and I were both disappointed, so it's going to hold it back. Yeah. Would I recommend this to everyone? Sure, there are some people, probably not to my average friends, who are going to ask me for a recommendation on what to watch.
No.
But would I watch this, maybe building up to another Dave Franco feature to come in the future? Yeah, for sure. And I think this is, quite deserving of its video on demand and drive-in box office.
Yeah, maybe this is probably a good drive-in
far.
film. Maybe, maybe start off with this, heading into a classic thriller like A Nightmare at Elm or something. I don't know, but 5 and 6. So that's going to settle at a 5, Jackson, for The Rental. Guys, thanks for tuning in to our first mini episode here at the We Watch This podcast. It's
Minisode, you might even say.
Minisode, Jackson. Did you have a bit of fun?
Yeah, I've had a blast and we've kept it short. Dan, you said we couldn't do it less than 20 minutes, but here we are. Could we pad this out for another 3.5 minutes? Well, listeners, we'll have to find out. We would love you to reach out to us on our social media. So for our new listeners out there and existing ones, let us remind you, you can reach us on Instagram, Facebook, Letterboxd, TikTok, Twitter, anywhere and everywhere at We Watch This Podcast. We'd love for you to reach out to us if you want to be featured on your own minisode. Maybe you're somewhere in the world where you can hit the cinemas. We certainly can't here in Melbourne. We hope to soon. Maybe you want to join us for a roundtable discussion. Send us a DM, chuck us a follow, hit subscribe. Check out our awesome sponsors at the PS5 Central Podcast and, of course, ExpressVPN. I'm Matt Marshall on film. He is
Dan Ella Movies.
And we are out of time.
Thanks for listening, guys. We will see you later.